Yeah, and the thing is, I know style, I know my colors and stuff, but sometimes like I don't buy a pink pair of shoes and stuff. And I'm like, what color is pink? Like, some colors
And she's a designer,
I
so
won't
she's got her color wheel.
oh,
She's like,
she can do the whole color wheel. I just do the primary.
Red, green, blue.
Well, I actually do black and white.
It's
Technically,
like-
I'm black and white.
Oh dear. Well, thank you all very much for coming. This is our first one. First one. So we've done a partnership with ISS, where we're going to do a series of 12 of these once a month, and hitting the topics that I don't know. What are we calling it?
Pertinent to the industry.
How did the location get chosen? Just,
It's the ISS.
oh, it is.
That's how I got chosen.
Understood now, got it.
So yeah.
You
All
have
right.
topics all chosen already?
The what?
You have topics all chosen, obviously.
No, not yet. So this was. Yeah, this one was very much of the
Oh, I
moment.
could send this in good topics.
And the next ones really are open for suggestions, and finding out what people really want to be discussed. So, yeah. And this time, it's sexual harassment.
I would love to see one about arrogant captains.
Oh, well.
No, I'm being serious.
All right.
Captains get on this, they do, and they believe like they're too good for everything. Like I can't tell you well, I deserve this. And I've gotten so many captain's jobs, and then they'll come to me and say like, oh, well, you were talking to so-and-so about getting a bigger boat. Let me help. What are you gonna do for me? And I'm like, I put you in your job.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, it's really like, I've always said, we need to start blacklisting captains. Do you know that I said that in front of a lot?
Blacklisting people.
Right,
Industry.
there are too
Yeah,
many people
but
that
you
are
know,
running.
I said that in front of a lot of leaders in the industry, and they were like, oh, no, we can't do that. And I said, why? I said, well, people will start talking about,
Or old people?
well, young and old. And I think what's hard about that is I agree that people will, you don't get on with someone, you're probably gonna kind of have a bad say of them.
Yeah.
But there's captains out there, and I know for a fact, some of our captains, they're blatantly stealing from the
Oh,
owners.
yeah.
They get off that
Every
boat,
time they get a referral fee and don't tell the owner they are.
they get off that boat, they know it, everyone knows it. About 6 months down the line, they're on a 150 footer doing the same thing.
Yep,
What does that tell about our industry?
everything.
And
It's
it's like,
worse in Europe, unfortunately.
it's kind of like when Lee did, no one wanted it, everyone didn't like the show, it was a bad thing. I loved it, I thought it was great.
The
Covered a
worst.
little bit.
Yeah, I've never seen an episode, but I know him well. But the thing what I liked about it was, yeah, it brings a reality to the crew. You know, like people are like, oh, you don't sit in the hot tub and drink the owner's champagne. I don't know about now. I did that. I filled the hot tub up when he wasn't there and drank his champagne.
These things have to be used, or electronics.
Yeah, we're
No,
testing
there's
it out.
another captain that I got a
Is
job.
that-
There's captain that I got a big job for.
Ah.
Like, oh, I have a bottle of Dom for you. I'm like, I don't want a stolen bottle from your owner.
Yeah.
Like, you give me something with your own money.
And we are back between two Yetis, and we are live from the International Superyacht Society's headquarters here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This is part of a 12-part series. This is episode 1. Welcome to our panelists.
Thank you.
To my right, we have Clayton Swart, of original South African descent,
Yes.
who worked for MHG Insurance.
Correct.
Welcome, sir.
Oh, thanks. Nice to be here.
To his right, we have to meet Theresa Manwaring,
Huh?
works for Bluewater Yachting,
Yes,
and you used to be a crew for the last
Still
12
am.
years. Still are.
I still plan to be.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So this is just a hiatus whilst you're on land.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To my left, we have the wonderful Jenny Wicker, sunseeker extraordinaire, yacht broker. Currently working for Wicker Associates.
Yes.
And we have Danielle's always smiling. I don't know if you've ever not seen Danielle Butler smile. Of the partner of the luxury law group.
Correct.
Very good. Well, welcome.
Not smiling, stay away.
If you're not smiling,
This is true.
it's a good morning.
Whoa.
So today, our topic is sexual harassment. Not so much sexual assault, but harassment. So our subtopic
Subtopic.
is in an, oh damn, I didn't do my thing.
What was it?
The take.
We're here behind the wrap. Damn, never mind.
Should we start over?
No,
No, you can just cut that.
I'll cut this
But
bit.
it's live.
So in an industry where we are got such vast cultural differences, not what is now considered acceptable, but what is acceptable. Who wants to kick off? Because we know that this industry's got a lot of what are they? Ghosts in the closet,
Skeletons in the
skeletons in the
I'll
closet.
start. I'll jump right in.
Go for it.
So,
Where do you
it's
think we should be?
apropos since I'm the lawyer in the group.
Yes, we will
Start.
wait.
It's
You
good
want me
to
to
get.
just regurgitate the law?
Please.
No.
That's why your voice smiled.
So I think, obviously, we all know there's a huge movement right now, but I also think that it's a personal issue. So it's what your tolerance is going to be. And I don't necessarily want anybody to dictate to me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I personally grew up from birth to now, all male industry. So I think I have an extreme tolerance to sexual harassment, probably according to the movement right now, an unacceptable tolerance. But Jenny and I were talking about this. There's the perfect world, right? And then there's reality. So the perfect world, we all get along no matter what race, religion, creed we are, and sex we are. But that's not the world we live in. And this industry is predominantly male. And I think women have done a great job in gaining leadership positions, but it would be a joke to say not without their struggles.
You feel like you've personally had to hold your tongue.
For sure. I mean, at 18 years now, I feel
All three of you just nodded then.
absolutely.
And
I've
my
seen
tolerance has grown from the time I started 12 years ago. I remember being a junior student and just being appalled and shocked. And then I have now become so much more accustomed to it or exposed to it that my tolerance level has definitely risen in the industry from things I would not have accepted before because I didn't want to lose my job or to become successful.
Well, I think if you're going back to the crew, I think it's, we're in an industry, it's definitely about looks or what you look like too as a female.
Definitely.
I mean, it's the only industry you're in that when you put a CV or a resume in, you gotta put a picture up.
Well, but even as women,
Everything.
we request, like, if a woman sends me a resume, I'm like, it's our industry standard, could you send us a picture of yourself?
I've been told by the
It's a sales.
owners exactly what they want, and I have to go higher for that. And I've been given specific directives, and I don't feel good about that, but.
But it's for men too, like, they don't, I know for a fact that I just got a client and they wanna fire the captain because he's overweight and looks like a slob, and that's not the image they wanna pursue, so it's.
But is that all right? But I know under the jurisdiction here of America, you're not allowed to ask when you're employing somebody,
Race.
race.
Pregnant.
Yeah.
Right.
Not really allowed to ask about
Not enough.
marital status or kids. I mean, there's so many things you can't specifically up. They can offer it up, but
You
you
can't
can't
ask
ask.
age, you can't ask religion, politics, creed, race, sexual orientation. You can't ask those. You cannot make a decision on hiring based on the characteristics of the person. It has to be based on their work ethics, their education,
Now, can you
their
do that
experience.
if you're hiring for a yacht? Because
Well,
if
they
that-
do.
That too, yeah, the same would hold true, but I think in our industry, we also know that the owners want what they want. And it's an industry, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. However, we never can forget that this is very wealthy people buying toys. I always bring it back to that.
yeah.
And on their toys and during their vacation time or their private time, they're gonna do what they want and they have the money to do what they want. So it's,
And do you feel like, from the industry perspective, then it's top down? That whatever that behavior may be.
I think dealing with the owners, yes, but in our industry, I think we're making strides that within us as industry colleagues and professionals, I think that our ethics, our professions, and our dealings with each other has gotten better, at least in my 18 years of being in the industry.
Because the marine industry is very male dominated, and it has been for centuries. And so, you ladies are of a similar age, I'm guessing.
You're not allowed to
Yeah,
ask that
mine-
question.
Sorry, you assume me.
You are sexually
Clayton's here for
discriminated.
my. And so, is there a change starting to happen because you are becoming more prominent now in the roles that you hold? Never
I
before.
don't know about that. When I first became a yacht broker, I was really young, so I never felt like people looked down on me as a woman. I think people were like, oh, she's a kid. Let's help her.
Age.
I mean, I was 24 when I started, and all these, even older men were like, we want to see you succeed, we want to help you, and like, there were things I never had to do because they were telling me how to do my job, which was great as a young kid who didn't know anything. And now, 11 years later, actually it's almost 12, but nobody's looking down on me because I've succeeded, I guess you could say, and I still have a lot more succeeding
you
to do.
fought, and I think that's a
Yeah.
testament also to who you are as an individual, female or male. You're type A, you're aggressive, you know your stuff. And,
Yes.
I think someone that's not, and a female would have, maybe it wouldn't be.
I agree with you. I mean, I've known Jenny, I've known you for a long time, and I've seen you grow. I mean, like when I was a yacht broker, it was hard for me because even though I had so much experience, I mean, I'm originally from a town where I grew up on the water, and then I went into boating, and I went up the ranks. And it was funny because when I became a yacht broker, everyone looked at me as a kid, and I didn't know anything, male or female. But when I got out of it, I really started to look at all the different positions of people, and Jenny was one of them because I really have followed you as a yacht broker, and I've seen you, be successful and stuff. And I think the thing with you is a lot of people look at you and go, well, you're young and you're a female. What do you really know about boating? Well, if you ever go with you down to the Keys on your boat, you'll know what she's really about. I mean, it's just like Danielle. I mean, I know you as a very successful woman on a boat. A lot of people will be like, well, what do you know about boating? Why should you be in it? And I
I
think,
would get that, I would guarantee you going out socially, you're amongst a group of people, maybe they're talking about boating, they would never assume if they didn't know what you did for a living, that you'd have any clue about boating.
yeah, and,
I love that too.
I do too. When I bust out Hawaii, I drive my own, you
But
know,
I mean, I think-
38-foot boat.
I think what I, as a guy in the industry, you know, is looking on both sides. I think, you know, there's good and bad about it, because there's a lot of girls in the industry face it. They use their sexuality to get where they are today. And that probably is a good and a bad thing, because it's really hurting
Yes.
the females in the industry that are
But that's every,
really trying.
that's every industry.
Every industry is ever since the
So that's
dawn
not
of
unique
time.
to ours.
So is it worse in this industry than any other industry? Or
You
is
know,
it?
I can only speak about this industry because this is all I know. I know my wife has done different
Hmm.
industries, and she had run offices and, you know, down in the design district. She had a showroom down there, and she had very, very strict laws. I mean, she had an HR, they were trying to, you know, if they needed to get someone fired, they couldn't just say, all right, well, pack your bags, you're off. You know, here's a plane ticket, I'll see you later. There's, you know, you can't really fire someone even on the terms. I mean, I'm not telling you everything about it, but that's what I
Right.
kind of know about it.
Well, to answer your
Outside
question,
industry.
I think that it depends on looking at the industry and at what level women have penetrated it in leadership positions.
Is this your ploy to take over the industry?
Me personally?
Women in
Danielle's
general.
already taken
Yeah,
over
no,
the
no, I
industry.
just want to
Because you
make money and travel.
Yeah.
So, and then retire. I do not want to die at my desk, but that's our generation, none of us do.
Wow. But you've been on. You're none of us apart from you. But were you ever touched on a boat?
No.
Big eyes.
Well, that's not saying that. You did work on the boat with your wife.
Yeah, I did.
It was not in one.
Was she your wife when she started working
No.
with you?
We
So
were
you
just
did cross
dating.
the line on the boat.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. But no, nowadays I was reading it was actually somebody
Yeah.
posted back in 2008. So this has been an issue that's been riding around for ages. And exactly that, a couple got together, and then she decided that she didn't like his advances, and all kinds of crap went off.
Yeah, well, that's
Well, that
why a
happens
lot
all the
of, I mean, you can speak about that, but a lot of the owners, I mean, we see it on the insurance side, because a lot of my friends are not even in the insurance, that they're trying to get on as a couple, and a lot of boats don't allow it anymore. Now, obviously, if it's a captain and a stewardess, or a captain and a chef, some owners are saying, you know, I don't want that. I don't want to have, I don't want to have a partner. And sometimes it's harder when you get to the smaller boats. Accommodation isn't as
Yeah.
easy as the 150 footers. And when you're on 150 foot, you know, that's what, I mean, when I was first crewing, you know, there was 11 crew, and we had 7 nationalities. I mean, so not only is it just the female aspect, but it's, you know, culturally. I mean, you know, South Africans and Australians and New Zealanders, we kind of get on because we have the same culture, but you put an American in there, or you put an English guy in there, yeah, we have a little background, but you put them in a crew mess together for the first time, and we were in Alaska for 6 months in a small little space. You know, if you don't have a personality that gets on, there's going to be issues, male or female.
So when you first started, then you said that you've become more tolerant.
Yes, I have, because when I started, I came from a background that had a very strict HR department, and, you know,
What industry is that?
I was in the retail industry.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I was a district manager for a retail company. And it
This
was,
is in the Midwest.
and also down here in South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Midwest area and then down here. And so yes, everything had to be documented and brought up, and there were strict HR rules. And then coming to this industry, didn't seem like there were any rules. And you didn't have anyone to even go to talk to. You didn't know
So
which
why
avenue
not?
to go.
Yeah.
And as a greenie, you're so worried about losing your job or getting a bad reputation
Yeah.
that you just kind of zip it. And
And it's a global industry that's about that big.
yes,
So, you know, you really
What
do
gets
have to
around.
be careful. What you do, what you say.
No, but this is the whole thing with the Hollywood thing. You just keep your mouth shut because your name.
I don't necessarily, okay, so again,
But they have
Jenny and
money
I were
now.
talking about this, right, but I think, so put it in context. So you were a crew person on a boat, so your interaction probably, and maybe any altercations were between you and your boss. Whereas for me and probably Jenny, it was more with our counterparts,
Yeah.
our colleagues. And I won't tolerate it from now, I won't tolerate it from my counterparts or colleagues. I say something very politely, but I just let them know that it's not appropriate. And I don't know about you ladies, but the response I always get is, "Oh, it's a joke. I was just kidding." Like, really? So if I accepted your offer right now, you tell me we wouldn't
There you go.
be gone? You know, was that just a joke? So
So, but you're land-based.
I am land-based.
So you two were, what do we call it, offshore? Crewing. So I kind of feel like there is a division.
There's a big, there's two parts here. I think there's more of, I mean this in a polite way, like more of a
Professionals.
professional way and more of a way, they're living amongst it. To crew, they're more worried about someone coming into their bedroom at night or touching them inappropriately, whereas we're more worried about men trying to belittle us or talk down to us or
But,
prevent us from moving up in
inappropriate,
the industry.
But
We're
you know,
saying rude
But I
things.
do think in the industry, you know, I was crew about 11 years ago. And I think what has happened, I've seen a lot of change. I mean, you know, all the different training companies, you know, Bluewater, MPT and all that, they are trying, they get it. I mean, it's like mental health now. I mean, that's a whole different topic. But there's a lot of different topics that the industry has figured out, oh, we need to. You know, I was just telling a colleague that when I got into the yachting industry, I didn't even need an STCW or any training.
Right.
You got on, you got the job, and you got the job and you were off.
Well, like
Nowadays,
any
you have to
industry,
have all of
Like
it.
every license.
So I
money
think-
just to get in.
I think the bigger boats, I really do think it's more of a professional job than it used to be. Obviously, there's a lot of, there's a lot of gray areas on the HR and stuff, because I don't know, I deal in the insurance business, I deal a lot with the owner, I deal a lot with the management companies and sometimes the captains. But when I was crew, I wasn't allowed, when I was, the junior, when I started out, I wasn't allowed to talk to the owner.
But do you know where that all promulgates from? Is from incidents that go into lawsuits that then develop case law. And also, we were talking about this today at lunch, is the more we put our industry on the map, on the radar screen, with asking for regulation to benefit us or change regulation in order to incorporate us, the more we get put on the radar screen. And we're talking about multi-million-dollar, if not billion-dollar transactions.
Yeah.
Okay? Look at the dirt real estate world, where you're just maybe buying and selling a couple $100,000 pieces of real estate, and how much regulation, red tape,
Yeah.
rules and regulations there are. And then look at our industry. Look at how we move around money.
Yeah.
So the more, when I came in, you're right, Wild West, no rules, no regulations. And now we're swaying. I don't know if I would say we're even in the middle yet, but the pendulum's moving more to the middle. But we're not over here. But I also think, do we want to be over here? Because
That's the
again,
next
it's
thing.
supposed to be fun for the
Yeah.
owners. If it
I would say that could prevent
eliminates
them
that.
from buying a yacht and wanting to get into that.
Not to say that, let them sexually discriminate at all, but I'm just saying the more rules and regulations,
Well,
the more
isn't that kind of what management companies were built on? I mean, designed for? Because, I mean, when I was on a
Right.
boat and there was an engine problem, I wouldn't go to technically I would go to my management company and get it sorted out. They have the funds, they have everything. I think that's really a great thing. I know a lot of captains don't like that because it gives up a lot of,
Right,
you know.
but before that, they went to their broker authority.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and now they're being replaced by management companies, and, the management companies have their fingerprints all over what the rules are, what the laws are. I speak with them every day, and they're constantly asking questions on, you know, how do I deal with that HR? How do I deal with this money problem?
Yeah,
How
sure.
do I hire, fire, you know, so, obviously,
But this
the
is
regulation comes from.
the bubble going to burst at some point? Because a lot of naughty stuff happened, whether it's flirtation or whatever. And you can see what's happening in the media now with lots of high-profile people. This
I don't think
industry,
it's gonna burst. I think that we will continue to grow and change for the better with each lawsuit that occurs.
Yes.
So for example, the latest in the springtime was stewardess who won her judgment against the owner of the yacht for multi-millions of dollars because unfortunately for her and for the industry, she was raped in her cabin. There's, you know, it's a very interesting read on the facts and the law of the case, but ultimately the owner was found liable and she was awarded a heavy judgment. And now, for me as an owner, the minute that happened, I went to my clients and looked at their insurance, looked at how they were regulating, and I can guarantee you the management companies did the same thing.
Yeah.
Because now that put that on the radar screen,
Yeah.
there's black
And it was a
letter
big one.
law.
so it
that we
didn't
can all
scare
turn to.
people. It just went, right, we just got to make sure that's addressed.
We have to do, yeah, you have to do things better.
I think people just didn't think about it before. You know, as someone who's running a boat isn't thinking about the safety of their crew, unfortunately. They think their
They
crew is
leave
taking
it to
care
the
of themselves.
management company, and the management company leaves it to the captain, and then it's the captain's responsibility who's
Because the
ultimately.
harder we make it for them,
Yes.
they're gonna get out of the industry and they're gonna go buy a home on Lake Como.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be fun for them, it's supposed to be fun. I know when I go out on my boat, I just wanna have fun,
Yeah.
right? I don't wanna worry about
This.
that stuff,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. So let's just talk quickly about the international aspect of it all.
Yes.
You've been on a boat, travelled all around the world. I assume you've pretty much travelled the
Yeah,
world as well. You've pretty much, I know you get to
Done
travel,
Caribbean.
but you are very much
Boating crew.
here in America. And I guess your clients are pretty much
International.
international. So the differences of what's acceptable in terms of from Saudi Arabia to
Extremely
London
cultural.
to here, how do we kind of, is there possible to have a baseline?
Based on the owner and their customs and culture, I think you have to look at it like that. So, and I think we go back to, so who are we talking about? Are we talking about us dealing with our clients, our owners, or are we talking about us dealing with each other in the industry? I think the industry could absolutely have a baseline. But I think when it comes to our owner, you have to look at the owner's ethnicity and customs and cultures. That's gonna dictate, you can't tell someone that's from a completely different society with different rules and regulations on how they treat women, that they have to all adhere to.
Is it
This
possible
standard.
to stereotype? So if you said you had a Russian client coming on board, or you had a Middle Eastern client, or you had a European client, everyone knew.
Yes, there are
100.
stereotypes, 100%.
There are people that won't talk to men that won't talk to women in other countries.
Yes.
And we'll never respect them.
There's a whole group of clientele of yacht owners that I don't even bother trying to solicit because I just know I don't have a chance.
Hmm.
And I feel the same. And I don't, it doesn't
And
bother
it's
me.
two things, sometimes it's youth, although I'm getting out of that as much as also gender.
I totally agree with you because, you know, and I don't harp on it, but you know, if you look at the two cultures, you look at the European market and you look at the American market, there's definitely a difference, huge difference. You look at the charter brokers versus the charter brokers in Europe. Europe gets it. They have dynamic young people. They're not scared of the new generation. And you know, it's funny, I just read an article about the new generation. I call myself we because I am turning 40. And what I do is I'm always sitting going, wow, the new generation are always on their phones. They're always doing IT stuff. Everything is I have a 9-year-old who's, you know, he's very, very active, but he's on his phone a lot. But you know what? We have to get used to it. We have to move with them or we're out of it. And where I'm going with it is it's so funny when I go to Europe, I go to the Monaco show. It's so great to see the interaction, male or female, charter brokers or yacht brokers, working with each other. Here, the older generation are so scared to give up their,
They're like this with their cards.
you know, and it's so sad because you know what? You look at the yacht brokers. How many yacht brokers are in your age that are going to take over? Face it, those old brokers in their 50s and 60s.
In other words.
Yeah, because
And she knows it.
you know, I always say there's a part of the industry that America has to get on with.
There's
You know,
a
it's,
huge age gap.
They're
It's
huge.
the 50s, really. I mean, I'm the early 40s, but I look at it because I came in when the baby boomers were at their heyday, right? And then I'm in the middle, Generation X, and then watching the millennials all come in and really just come in there and take a piece of their pie. I just heard from a baby boomer yacht broker who summers, right, not here. And he's like, so what's going on down there? And I was telling him, because, you know, these young people are taking over the industry. And I started laughing. I'm like, yes, they are. Does it give you a hint?
No, I'm
They
happy
do, they
about it.
come in, they're not scared of anything, they
Nope.
just think they already are entitled to a lot of things.
And they'll
They
start their
just
own
don't-
company like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they don't need you.
Yeah, They're, because they're so social media based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're the masters of getting people out there involved and aware of what they're doing.
Well, and the client too is a
So-
different client. The client is a client that comes to a broker already knowing what they want to look at,
Oh,
what
yeah,
they
the-
want,
what's-
where they want to charter.
You're so
Yeah,
right. I mean,
so-
in today's world, it's funny because they know more about the boat than you know because they've already researched it. They're coming there to experience the experience with your yacht broker, and if you're good at what you say you are, what your your profile is, well then you're going to sell the boat. No matter it's always my thing is that if it's your client, you shouldn't be worried about giving it up. I mean, that's how I see it because
Well, they also spent, compared to what they need to spend now to gain that sale or that listing is different because, I mean, when I first came in, the yacht brokers were traveling around the world, showing boats, doing all of that stuff because it wasn't on the internet. You physically had to find the boats, physically
Yeah.
had to go to the boats.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were spending almost $100,000 a year on travel budgets and
well, now
T&E.
you've got Skype and yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was way more expensive
Yeah.
to be a person in our industry than it is now. And I'm sure that's got to be the case for a lot of industries that have been affected by technology.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory about this whole Me Too movement,
Mhm.
and I believe it's been started by men, because by allowing certain guys to fall under the hammer of being called out, it's now sort of weaponized the accusation,
Mhm.
and for employers now, it's become a major thing to actually start considering this person could be a problem 2 or 3 years down the line. And I don't think it would have been that much of a red flag in years past if it hadn't been for this furor now.
Mhm. I have a client, okay, that called me with a problem. And this has nothing to do with our industry, but it has to do with our topic. And he had an employee that went off. It was a she was a salesperson. She went out to lunch with her direct supervisor who was going to do her evaluation. And she said that he got aggressive at lunch. And I said, okay, so what does she mean? And he said, well, they were at a round table, just the two of them, and she was sitting there and she had said something, which was a response to a critique. And she said that he put his hands on the table, leaned over the table, and was very direct with her. And I said, well, I think whether or not that's aggressive depends on the person. I mean, to me, that's just being poignant. Maybe to you, that's aggressive. For men, that's
So
how you guys communicate with each other. So I said, I can guarantee you that she might find that was aggressive, but if you told him that she said he was being aggressive, he'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I didn't touch her. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't curse at her.
But this comes back to what you said at the beginning. what you find unacceptable,
Mhm.
you know, you might
Yeah,
not.
I might not.
You might not, and you might not. And so it's down to your experiences. Though.
And
It's
culture
definitely-
and
Well,
backgrounds too.
and I think it's, you do get, I always say I have broad shoulders, speaking to captains and owners on a daily basis, your shoulders get broader and broader, and I think it's accepted. I always say, well, why should why should the secretary be a woman? Well, isn't that the law? Like technically, no. I mean, or when you're on a boat
It's
and there's a guy that comes on, okay, you're in the deck.
They're also better at multitasking. Men can't do it.
Well, that's 100%.
Well,
But it's
almost
just, I
everyone
think that
with
it's got
ADD is
so.
good at multitasking, so that's
That
men
to
and
me
women.
is kind of sexist, because, it's like, I don't know, if a woman gets on a boat, she can't, back in my days, if you wanted to be an engineer, it was really weird to see a woman in the engine room. Now it's great, all captains, how many captains are there that are women? Now it's getting more and more, I think it's evolving.
It's still under a dozen.
Yeah.
And I think female yacht brokers in your age bracket is probably under half a dozen.
Well, I can tell you that I've had this happen to me 5 or 6 times. I'll dock a boat and a man will go, wow, you dock that boat better than most men I know. And I'm like, so I dock the boat better than the bad men you know.
Yeah.
Thank you. What a compliment. Like, what is that? And I know they're actually saying it with good intentions, but the words they say, what are you talking
But
about?
unfortunately-
Why can't you just say you're really good at docking?
But unfortunately, maybe that's one of the, and that's looking at from the guy's side. My wife is from Wyoming, so I just got back from being out west. And I don't know if you've ever been out west, they're probably the nicest people
Okay.
in the
So
state.
it's not like Yellowstone on Paramount?
No. But what it is people are so friendly. Here in South Florida, we're on such, I have to, when I'm at the airport, I say to Aaron, I'm going to detox from South Florida. And
But
it's,
you have to understand, everyone from South Florida isn't actually from South
no,
Florida.
I get that.
Who here actually grew up in South
But
Florida?
I'm not saying, the thing is I'm not saying that South Florida people are bad. I'm just saying the culture, because we're always, hey, I get it, we're always busy and stuff. But I went there and everyone is so nice to each other. And if a guy comes to me, like we were boating out.
But aren't they mostly Republicans out there?
Well, Democrats.
Andrew Cohen just walked in the room.
Well,
But
they're
most
not.
of them are from there.
So we get on.
Most of them are from there. And like Florida, we are kind of like the different nationalities on yachts because everybody in Florida is.
But can I tell you, I think, can I be honest with you? I think that is, I think everyone's just saying it to be what's the word?
Wait, what are we talking about?
Compensate? What?
No, I just think people are, whenever you say, like I said, people here aren't that friendly. They're always on, and then they're like, well, no one, they come up with an excuse.
But
Anywhere else you go, like if I go to New York City and I'm talking to people, I'm a friendly guy. I open the door for girls. I'm always trying to do stuff. If you're nice to someone,
In New York,
Someone's
I'd be
gonna
like,
be
what-
nice to
What the
you.
hell is wrong with you?
But
When you
if-
said hello to me, I'm like, do I know you?
Yeah.
I'm from New York, so I'm born and raised, I know.
but if
But I've changed.
But the thing is, okay, I go to a lot of yards and people are always talking like, how are we gonna, I go to a lot of, I belong to a lot of organizations. We're always talking how, we need to be all nice to each other. Because then if we're nice to each other, people are gonna find that, how many people, like I go to a lot of events, I'm friendly to everyone, I know a lot
You
of
are.
people. You know how many people don't talk to me, or they'll just give me they don't want to talk to me because they probably are the president of a company and they're maybe too busy, or they're, I
they
get that.
probably
don't
know
need
you're
you.
married and they don't want you to think it's sexual
So
harassment.
here's
Well,
our
that's true.
industry. You
But-
go to our industry, right, an event in our industry, and you're gonna go into the room and you're gonna assess who you could get business from. And those are the people you're gonna talk to. Now, hopefully, it's different at a social event, but you've got a job to do, you've got limited time. And I think there's also a psychological thing too. Remember, we live in a city. The closer you force people together, the more people get uncomfortable.
Sure.
So you all need, that space around us. Whereas in Wyoming,
Yeah.
we've got all the space in the world. They have everything to be happy about.
They also
And I
all
forget
grew
about
up
that.
together and nobody left and nobody's coming in. Like,
Yeah, but isn't it?
Here, I'm
it's
telling
great
you.
when you have different cultures. I mean, to be honest with
Yeah,
you,
it's
I
perfect.
love talking.
I like it.
When I go to, it's funny, when I go to an event or where there's crew, I'll talk to every other nationality than South Africans. Because face it, I'm from there, I know the country. And it's so great to get to know people. But I think the thing is our industry, male or female, there's so much, you don't have, yes, everything's about business, trying to find it, but a lot of times, go to events just to mingle and talk to people in our industry and say, I came to the States and came into my industry because I love travel and I love the diversity of people and getting to know them, different
But you're
cultures.
very, also remember your personality. You have to look at people's personality. You're
Yeah.
a super open, friendly, talkative
right, if
person.
you got a
That's
superlative
yeah.
in high school, it would have been Mr. Friendly.
Right, right. So, no, and that's a great thing. I wish more people were like you, but then you take maybe people that are more bee-like or more introverted and,
Yeah.
they're just like, first of all, they don't even want to be there. They don't even care about the business that's
Well, no, listen, I'm in the insurance business and we have some
You have a
people
lot of
in our
those.
office, we try and force them to go to events and we're like, why?
It's painful.
Because it's painful for them and we get that, it's not like you can get in a room and want to talk to everyone. I get that. I wish people, male and female, if we just talk to someone that you've never met and bring them into our industry. Like you say,
Mentoring.
it's so small.
Yeah.
And I see it when I go to Europe a lot, and I don't see it as much. Maybe because I live here now, so it's different. But when I'm in Europe and I go to the shows, I will be at a show, and maybe it's because we're at Monica's show and people are there to do business. But people will come up to me and go, "Wow, where are you from? What are you in? Doing that?" I hope to get that in the States because
Everyone knows here.
we're only talking to the same people.
No, we get
Yeah.
what you're definitely
Yeah.
trying to get across, but I guess if you talk about going back to sexual harassment, sexual discrimination.
I think that word sexual is overdone. Maybe it's just harassment.
Yeah.
And what
Mhm.
levels?
Because he could easily be harassed. I have female clients that just want good-looking men on their boat.
That's what I tried
Yeah.
to get someone to come here. That's a man. And I said, well, you're someone who objectifies women. He goes, what? Please, I get objectified at every boat show. That's what I would talk about. All the women that want to take me home. And I'm like, okay, you're not coming.
You're not coming.
But it comes back to the fundamental issue. This industry is all about fun at its core. And
There's also
There's-
not a lot of, I think we have a core of people in this industry that aren't just that smart either, just have no filter, right? I mean, you should know better than to go up to a woman and ask her if she's wearing underwear at work, like at a work event. Are you going commando? Are you commando today? That's an inappropriate question.
Well, I don't want to know the
Anyway.
answer about men, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and I was shocked by that question.
I tell you the problem. I know exactly what the
I'm a
problem is.
lawyer for crying
It's
out loud.
because our professional lives are so closely linked to our personal lives. And so we all know each other outside of work. And so that's a blurred line a
This
lot of the
wasn't
times.
someone that knew me. They know of me. And I think that when we go to an event
Well,
that
this
has
is what-
alcohol,
Right.
people forget that they're working.
Yes. No, I
Okay.
that's maybe where
You're
it
not
is.
supposed to get stupid drunk. And maybe you shouldn't even
Because
be
you're representing
not
your-
drinking, period. Drinking and driving, saying the wrong things, discriminating, whatever it may be. You know, when people drink, they lose their filters. Or they also lose their morals and bad things happen.
I think this could be the next topic. Alcohol in the industry. Because it is a major issue.
Well, and we're living in Fort Liberty.
Fort Lauderdale, yeah. And
Two
it's
things, right?
But this is what I find amazing at the boat shows. Everybody's having a party at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then there's another one at 4, another one at 5, another 6, another 7. Go home, go
By
out, and then
7
and then you stay out till 1, 2, and then you come back, and then you're supposed to do another work day. I know that happens in other industries, but this industry it seems to be much more acceptable
But just because it's there doesn't mean you should be partaking of it, pretending like you're.
But people
Well,
don't
You
have.
just have to be responsible for your actions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a story about drinking and sexual harassment, I guess you would say. And I had a boss that called me into his office one day and he says, it's come to my attention that it concerns a lot of men that you're going out with a bunch of married men after the boat shows. And I said, so you want me to go out with all the women in our company? There aren't any. And he says, well, he said, I'm not trying to give you a father-daughter talk. He said, but they're married and you probably shouldn't go out drinking with them. And I'm sitting here like, as a single younger woman, I'm like, they're the married ones going out with, like, why was I at fault? First of all, nothing was happening. Second of all I'm doing is hanging out with my colleagues. But as a young woman, it looked bad, and I was the one that needed to change my actions, not the married men.
Mm.
That's an issue.
That happens all the time.
Blimey.
So.
Well, that's our hour.
Wow.
That went fast.
Yeah. Can we draw any
I think we could have done a
conclusions?
whole hour
No,
on
yeah.
just us talking about our sexual harassment stories.
Well, this is it. Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
sure you have one in there.
But
Being sexually harassed.
yeah, well, you know, it is. I mean, that's funny. You take that to your point that, you know, I'm married and have a kid, and it's, you know, it's very hard for me because I deal with a lot of women in the industry, and I am a business development, so that is technically my job to go out and entertain and
Yeah.
see people. And
And
it's,
your friendliness could be taken the wrong way.
oh, and you know the thing with the sad thing is every time I'm taking a picture with a girl that's going on in a publication, I'm always like, you know, there's people in the industry that know me that, well, there has to be two people and two girls. And I hate thinking like that, but we're in an industry, unfortunately, when you're married, you have to think like
But
that.
maybe if more gentlemen thought like that, then that would be helpful.
But I don't think it's a problem that a married man is hanging out with a single woman
No.
in the industry.
I
As long as they're doing the right
no, I
thing,
don't
just
think,
be
I don't,
moral.
yeah.
Right.
I don't think, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it is a very hard,
But what scares me too is, so I feel that, being a lawyer, I guess, and maybe this is something mental or not, I feel like, okay, I am a lawyer, I'm a professional, I got my education, go before a judge, all that type of stuff. So I feel that if at that level, I'm getting harassed or discriminated against, then what about the women that don't have at least that level of education to kind of protect them in a way? And I've had a client, I've went to the Bahamas, went on a closing. When I first met the client, he was with his wife at the closing in the Bahamas. It was just him. We closed. I was going to do a turn and burn and come home that same day. And he asked me if I would stay on. And he said, we're gonna do a cruise now for a week. Would you like to stay on? I said, no, thank you, Mr. Smith, that's very nice of you. I said, I have a full week of work ahead of me. And he goes, oh, that's right, billable hours. He goes, I'll pay for 40 hours. And I was like, I knew what came with that 40-hour payment, and I was like,
are you-
thank you very
but
much.
did
No.
he have it, I mean, are you assuming that he
Was interested in you.
interested in you?
He was, yes, absolutely, there was no
Who's
doubt.
paying for
If
it?
someone was going to pay 40 hours of my rate as an attorney, and so when I came back and I told a partner that I was working for, he laughed. And he's like, oh yeah, I should have probably told you about him.
So-
Did he send you deliberately then?
No, not at all. I was the associate, it was my file, and he was a sink or swim type of mentor. I don't blame
You could
him.
handle it.
He knew I could handle it. Maybe a little warning prior to, this guy's a dog, so when he does
Yeah,
stay
as
on
long-
pay
at
40
least,
hours, I'm not like,
It's amazing, all these different angles. So we've got all the money, all this wealth. It's a fun pastime and recreation and your
well, and
career
then you talk
profession.
about
International.
clients.
International, so you're traveling and you're away from home for God knows how long, like you
But
said.
I wanted
a
to
decade
tell him,
ago.
what I wanted to tell him, but I couldn't. because he was a client.
But
You know, maybe some people say you should have it. It's your moral obligation to tell him, you're married, that's wrong, I'm not a prostitute, you can't pay for my hours, but I'm sorry, that's just not the reality of it.
What would you
I was an
gain
associate
from
of law firm.
But you know, when I was crew, so I worked on a boat that the wife knew that the husband was having an affair. It was okay for her. You know, she wasn't working. She had
She
as
was
much
enjoying
money
her
as she
life.
wants.
Just wanted-
As long as she didn't see it,
Trade-off.
it was okay. And unfortunately, girls in the industry that use their sexuality to get places.
Yes.
Now, is it okay or not? Because that is showing to the guys that, oh wow, well, you know, it's you know, we're there to try and get places in life, and when you see a woman doing that, it's kind of like, wow, how do you feel as a woman when you see that? I mean, I don't know. If I saw a guy doing that,
I'm disgusted
I would be
by it.
embarrassed.
I am absolutely.
Well, I would never give someone like that business, to be honest.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, share your story, because I think that was the point about what you told.
The girl
Mhm.
dressed.
Because I think it's great. I really do. I mean, here's a woman telling another woman some
There's
really.
a adorable girl was like upset the other night, and she said to me, I don't understand why men never want to date me. They only want to sleep with me. And she like went on about the saga story, and I look at her and I said, well, don't take this the wrong way, but perhaps you could put a little more clothes on. And she immediately like went and cried to someone and said that I called her a slut. Now I never called her a slut, but don't put out there what you don't want to receive back. Like
I agree.
I could look at her and know exactly what her body looked like, and I'm a woman. Like the
Look at
men
the
are
social
looking at her,
media.
they know what they want in their bed.
So it does go to, I think, also the individual, right? So because most people that I think if we were to actually sit down and tell all the stories, and we're still sitting here in our industry, we have very thick skin. And I think other women that don't or either can't grow it, it's not an industry that they're going to succeed in. I hate to say that, but I think that's the truth.
I just got a client that was referred to me from a friend, and he said, well, I was told you were the underdog. And I said, he called me the underdog. And this boat is like right in my territory of business. I mean, everything about it screamed Jenny Wicker, Rick Goby, or just Rick Goby, if you will.
Yeah.
Like everything about it, that I can't think of a better fit for him. And he kept going on and on about the underdog. And I'm like, who in the world is he comparing me to? But so I laughed and I called my friend. I said, why do you keep calling me the underdog? And he said, I don't know. He called the guy and he said, why'd you call her an underdog? He said, oh, she's a woman. She's never going to be top. And he says, just like I would never have a woman as an executive. My friend said, if you don't want to work for him, if you don't want him to be your client, like it's fine. I won't be offended. I said, I don't really care. I don't care. If he wants to say something that he's obviously an idiot for thinking that, but I don't really care. Like, think whatever you want. It's not going to hurt me.
And you know what?
I just got a good listing.
What's good about you is that you're okay with yourself.
Yeah.
You figured out how to deal with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women in the industry that don't.
No,
A
there's
lot of
like the
women out
girls that maybe dress provocatively,
Yeah,
have
well,
too
they're-
much to drink. I mean,
Yeah.
you also have to have some accountability. You know, I can't go out dressed in a Miami nightclub dress, get all liquored up at a boat show, and then if someone says something inappropriate to me,
Oh, I
it's
see it
harassment.
when I'm in Antigua. I'm in the Antigua Charter Show, which I have a hard time with because it's supposed to be for the charter brokers and the non-exhibitors, which it's a different thing. But
What is it?
What
I've
is-
never been to it.
it's a charter. It's one of the biggest charter.
No, but you're saying the women would. So
Oh, but where I wanted to go with it is like the crew actually enjoy the show just like everyone else, and they get really lick it up,
Very
right?
much party.
So what's so hard about it, and it drives me crazy, you're in the Caribbean on not such a safe island, and you go out there and these girls are dressed like they shouldn't even dress like that
that's what
at
I.
home.
in Miami.
And then they get
Yeah.
raped, and then they get assaulted, and then they're like, well, I can't believe it happened to me. But if you actually knew what you were wearing, and I'm sure, you know, it's one, they can't walk to their hotel or their boats. That to me is just, and I see it every year, I see it.
But that behaviour is encouraged. Every boat show, there's event after event, free liquor, free liquor, free liquor. There's no
It's not encouraged for
monitor.
women to wear no clothes.
Well, what about the year that, who was it? One of the brokerage companies had the girls walking around in the
Yeah.
little tiny blue shorts with a half crop.
I was gonna say, look at what all those
Little-
companies, and they have those, they hire the models.
Or
to
they
do
hire the
shows
Voodoo
to
girls.
stand
Monroe
there.
girls.
Yeah,
But again, that's
All about image.
that's just part of it.
that's
So,
promulgating the behavior,
yeah.
saying that it's acceptable. Look, it's walking around on our docks.
But we also have, I mean, I've also seen it on the other side that they've used really good-looking male guys without the
In
tops
Hooters
on.
outfits?
No, without the tops on in the,
Yeah.
the hot tub. So I think.
And as women, we look too.
Where is that? What boat shop? Pull that boat out on me next time.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Never.
No, but I think we're in such a fun industry that it's okay. You know, listen, I mean, I come from a small surf town. I get